And that's why it's getting hot, I can feel the heat. It's too cold, I can feel the street. I'm just trying to make it through the day, not in my head trying to feel the beat. I'm trying to feel the beat. I'm trying to feel, just wanna feel. I'm trying to feel the beat. You gotta feel the beat. I'm trying to feel the beat. I just wanna feel the beat. I'm trying to feel the beat.
Feel the beat. 263 people have fallen victim to gun violence in the United States over the past 72 hours. Is now a good time to talk about gun reform?
The George Croom Experience, presented by Ad Closure, the secret agent of top agents. Is your home being marketed or is it just listed? Tell your agent you want Ad Closure marketing to help sell your home faster.
I'm so happy you guys have joined me, man. This has been an awesome ride. 10 shows down, and we're gonna keep it moving. But let's pay some bills. We'll get into all the excitement, all the new things. The George Croom Experience is presented by Ad Closure, the secret agent of top agents. Talk to your agent about adding Ad Closure marketing and sell your home quicker. I got some things to show y'all. Let's get into it, Kep.
Title IX was created to eliminate gender-based discrimination in athletics. Should the law be expanded to cover more than just inclusion?
Over the weekend, 2 weekends ago, there was the Las Vegas Invitational at the Mirage. And that photo that you just saw before this, that photo was what it looked like in there. I mean, I've seen female AAU tournaments that look better than that. And we're talking about these girls are playing college basketball. The team that was on the floor, Indiana, is the 4th ranked team in the nation. Why are they playing in facilities like that? I mean, for the Invitational, they had no bleachers, no screens, no sponsor logos, and the fans were sitting in folding chairs. Folding chairs. I'm going to tell you, I don't think I've been to a high school girls game, and I've been to a lot of high school girl games. I have a lot of cousins who play sports. I have not ever sat. I've never sat in a folding chair at a game, male or female. I mean, you'll rarely find kids games at the YMCA that don't at least have some bleachers for the parents to sit in. So, we can't expect these coaches. I mean, they say a lot of times, and good on them. The female coaches in the women's games will say we're doing what we can to build the sport, and I say, fantastic, but especially at the collegiate level, that's not your job. You should not have to provide the resource. It's almost like a kindergarten teacher who comes with limited resources to her class because the school doesn't provide some of the stuff she needs, so she's taking it out of her salary. They shouldn't have to take it out of their time and efforts to build a team and to also have to build their sport because they're not supported. And people will talk about Title IX. So Title IX was created to ensure that there was equity in education, making sure that women got the same resources, especially when those finances came from the federal government. And so Title IX tends to filter down into sports. But what it doesn't include is athletics. It doesn't. It may filter down to them. It may have included a few more women's teams because a lot of those teams are subsidized by the money that comes into the university by the federal government, but it doesn't tell you that it has to be equitable. It just has to be there. So if you have a men's basketball team, you have to have a women's basketball team. But we don't have to give them the same resources. Terrible locker rooms, terrible uniforms, terrible tournaments to play at. Look, here's what I say. For any program that spends over 50% on their men's programs, I don't care what the school is, and for whatever reason, whether it's for football or whatever, but if you spend more than 50% of your sports budget on your men's teams, you should pay a luxury tax. That luxury tax should go into a gigantic pot, and that pot should be split between the schools that are in your specific division. So if you're a Division 1A school, you have to pay a luxury tax if you spend 50% or more on your men's teams. And then that money gets divvied up between the 131 Division 1A schools that are in the country so that they can improve their women's athletics. And that money can't go to anybody but women's athletics. I think then you'll start to see schools doing this on their own because they're not going to want to share the money that comes in. But I feel like if we don't force them to do it, they're not going to do it. And we're always going to have situations where women are playing basketball in a gigantic, the Mirage has great facilities. You can actually play a college basketball game in there and have it look like a real college basketball game. I mean, they've done it. They have a semi-pro league that plays in there. So why was this tournament done in what looked like a dining hall turned into a basketball court? Start taxing them. I bet you then they'll get it. Let's go, Kep.
Justin Verlander signed a 2-year deal with the Mets for $86 million. Is he the greatest pitcher to play past 40?
We did get Justin Verlander. So Justin Verlander comes to the Mets and he got paid a gigantic $86 million over 2 years. This man is 41 years old. And so it made me think, like, does that make him, because of the money, the greatest over 40 baseball player in history? Or is he just a dude that's over 40? I mean, he's not just a dude. Stud. One of the best pitchers, especially in this generation, one of the best pitchers to ever play the game. Absolute stud. Hall of Famer. But who were the other ones? Over 40. So I started to think. First on my list, Nolan Ryan. He would be number 3. So if we're going from 3 to 1, Nolan Ryan for me would be the number 3 on there. He actually had one of his best years when he was 44 years old. I think he played till he was 46. Nolan Ryan was an Iron Man. He absolutely was an Iron Man, and he was right at the front end of that steroid era, if not somewhat in it. Some would argue, but his career actually lasted into that place. I mean, hell, I have to ask if he had been a player that was actually on steroids, could he have played until he was 60? Because he was still a serviceable pitcher into his 40s. Second, Satchel Paige. So a lot of people know the name, but they don't know. Satchel Paige was a Negro League baseball player, and he didn't get drafted into the major leagues because, of course, the color barrier hadn't been broken yet. He didn't get drafted into the major leagues until he was 42 years old. And he still went on to have a better career. I think he spent 6-7 years in the majors from that point. He still went on to pitch in the majors a lot better than a lot of people who have a lot of years who actually showed up in the Hall of Fame still. Satchel Paige was a flat-out stud, and there's a lot of those players, and I'll touch on it from time to time. I actually have some, if you look hard at the intro, I have so some murals here in Baltimore that show some of the Negro League players, and I feature that here in the intro, but yeah, Satchel Paige was one of those guys, and you have to question if the Negro Leagues had been able to play with the majors. The what-if questions, right? Like, who would have been those other people? Who would have been those people that we remembered, and maybe Babe Ruth would have gotten pushed down a little bit? I mean, he was still a great baseball player, but was he playing against the best pitchers? Was he playing against the best hitters? Because he was a two-way player. There'll always be a question. But the number one for me, and this one's going to be controversial, is Roger Clemens. Roger Clemens was absolutely, more than likely, I think we've confirmed it, was on performance-enhancing drugs. But that notwithstanding, he has more Cy Young awards than any other pitcher in the game. And at the end of the day, it's like I say about Barry Bonds. You still got to throw the ball. You still got to pitch. Barry still had to hit. So we call these guys drug addicts or whatever. Hey, if they're shooting up and it's making them throw it a little bit faster, I mean, what are we going to say now? You can't find a pitcher that throws under 100. Are they still dope? No. Maybe we were just at the front end of something, and these guys happened to be taking performance-enhancing drugs, but how much was their performance an enhancement from the drugs, and how much of that was just the evolution of the game, and they just happened to be on the front end of it? Oh, by the way, happened to be taking drugs to go on top of it. We can argue that. We won't right now, because we're going to break. We'll be back.
The uphill battle Baltimore faces as they attempt to lower the city's blight. Coming up next on the George Croom Experience.
G1 Commercial is a proud sponsor of the George Croom Experience. Stay tuned because more is coming up after this break.
What is an asset-based lending philosophy? An asset-based lending philosophy focuses on assets instead of income. Let me explain. A traditional mortgage requires the borrower to prove they make enough income to cover their mortgage payment and all other debts. The amount of your income used to pay your debt is limited to somewhere around 50%. This means that if your debt is greater than the maximum debt-to-income ratio, your loan is denied. An asset-based loan doesn't use your income to qualify. It uses the property securing the loan and its ability to generate cash flow or appreciation as the primary qualifier. In a nutshell, G1 Commercial Mortgage is a bank alternative mortgage finance company for real estate investors. If you get denied by a bank or do not want to go through the traditional bank underwriting process, give us a call.
Now, love and be more.
Baltimore's new program is to, if you've never been through the city of Baltimore, there's areas in it, and I know this well because when I moved here from Detroit, a lot of people like to compare Detroit and Baltimore, and while they are similar in some ways, Baltimore has a long way to go before it gets to the level that Detroit was at. They could go in that direction if they don't start to turn some things around, but I think they've finally started to make some changes that are going to turn the city around, and they won't hit the same situation that Detroit was in. Still lack industry, still need a housing market to recover, but you need jobs for that. You need to lower some taxes so that people will come in and create those jobs. Keep depending on the government to create jobs, and the government can't create jobs, but they can squander them. They can absolutely push them away. But another topic for another day. Right now, we're talking about the extreme blight that we have in the city of Baltimore. So the city of Baltimore, based off of a program, a statewide program, was given this parameter where they could create a program called the judicial in rem foreclosure. So it allows the city to obtain ownership of properties, vacant lots or buildings where the liens on that property, be it taxes, be it liens for construction, things that they haven't paid, where the liens, when the lien is worth more, the collective of liens is worth more than the building or vacant lot itself, the city can go in and foreclose on that property. And so they've picked a whole bunch of places in the city, and their goal is to get to a point where they can get 500 of those every year pumped out. They've hired new lawyers in, they've hired new assistants in, and they're working on just this program. Of course, then we have to figure out how you sell all of these properties on the back end, because what you don't want is a bunch of properties that the city now owns, yet there's nothing happening with them. So I don't think they fully closed that gap, but they're trying to do something. They hit a little roadblock. They started the program. 8 of the properties that they put up there, the judge kicked them back and said that they need to do a little bit more due diligence to ensure that everybody who may have interest in that property, be it a homeowner, be it distant relatives, be it the bank, have been given an opportunity to respond and pay off these liens so that the properties weren't taken. But I think that the thing that is happening in Baltimore where they're trying to fix some of these issues, I think it's a great thing. Because until you start to clean out the blight, you can't bring businesses in that will want to create jobs so that people will buy the homes that are created by that now open space when we take some of these homes away. And a lot of them are boarded up and falling apart. So this is just the first step, and hopefully a lot of different things that they can do. And they like to say it's going to take years. And that's where we have to lean on the government to clean up some of the backlog through some deregulation. We deregulate for everything else, but when it comes to something that actually helps people, that actually will bring jobs, that will actually house people, we don't do it. We'll bail out banks, but we won't deregulate so that we can allow people to buy homes in their neighborhood, fix them up, and to do some community development. And I think that's something that we need to work on. All right, so we're going to take a really quick break. We're going to pay a few quick bills, and then we're going to come right back. It's the George Croom Experience right here on YouTube.
The George Croom Experience, presented by Ad Closure, the secret agent of top agents. Is your home being marketed, or is it just listed? Tell your agent you want Ad Closure marketing to help sell your home faster.
All right, welcome back to the George Croom Experience. I am George Croom. This is show number 10, and we are killing it, and we are loving it, and we're going to get into this next subject. So me and Kep have been talking about this a little bit over the past week or two, and Kep is a cat lover. So when it comes to anything about cats and things of that sort, I like to bring it in because I know that's something she can speak on, but then it's also something that I want to be more educated on, because I didn't grow up in a cat family. I grew up in a family that wanted cats around. We had dogs. Every once in a while, somebody would have a dog. But cats, I don't have any people in my family who have cats. And so I'm not opposed to cats. I just never been around them. So I'm wanting to learn more about them because I got a lot of friends with cats. So you got to learn to like something that you've never been around if you want to like your friends. and Kep is one of those friends. So Kep, me and you have talked about it, and the city has this new program for trap, neuter, and release, and it's drawn a little bit of controversy. So just tell us what you think about the program and its usefulness, its effectiveness for controlling cat populations or otherwise, if you hate it. And I think I know what you're going to say, but if you hate it, let us know you hate it.
I think these types of programs that catch and spay or neuter feral cats before releasing them is a great idea. And the reason for this is I read that one of the leading causes of death for wild birds is actually cats. And so being able to keep that feral population down, since they're always outside, will really help with the wild bird population. And if you have a cat of your own that is indoor, outdoor, or spends a lot of time outdoors, you could put a little bell around their collar, and that'll just warn birds around them when your cat is nearby. Or if you take them outside on walks and stuff, just make sure you put them on a leash, and that way all the animals are happy.
You know, she brought up a really good point. So one of the things that she talked about is and thank you, Kep. She spoke about the amount of birds that are killed every single year, especially in the U.S. 2.4 billion. That's the actual number. 2.4 billion birds die at the mouth of the cats that are living in the wild. And technically, the cats are an invasive species. And I think I'm with Kep on this one, though. Because what's the alternative? That we catch them, don't release them, don't have the facilities for them, and then we euthanize them? Is that what we want? I'm sure no advocate for cats is going to say that that's the option they would prefer, as opposed to us taking the ones that are already in the wild, trapping them, neutering them, and then releasing them. They don't increase the population. They will die off, and then we can slowly get the numbers down while we do some advocacy work and tell people don't let your cats outside. I thought it was hilarious, though, because when Kep actually told me that she put her cat on a leash, since me not being a cat person, I never knew that was possible. But yes, if that's possible, put your cat on a leash. Keep your cat from going out here and destroying ecosystems, and let them be a house cat. They'll be just as happy. Build an outdoor space for them. But I don't think taking wild cats and then euthanizing them is the answer, because there's going to be pushback with that too. We can say it's inhumane. We can say there's been a lot of animals who have gone extinct because we put these invasive species, the modern house cat, outside. Sure, I got it. I got all of that. But it's a problem that's already happening. So we have to figure out how to fix that problem in a way that's fair to the cat, and yet also doesn't rile up people who are going to say later, hey, you can't keep killing cats. It's a no-win situation, kind of, but on this one, I think it's a full win because we're working in the interest of the cat. We'll be right back.
Wait, bruh. Shouldn't every video your team puts out draw an emotion? Take the viewer on a journey. And highlight your markets as places they can live and call home.
There is a wonderful movie featuring Danny DeVito called Renaissance Man. Now, I was obsessed with this movie when I was young, admittedly because Stacey Dash was in it and I was just hitting puberty. Don't judge 12-year-old me. Don't do that. But there was some lessons in the movie that I attached to. See, Danny DeVito was asked to teach soldiers in basic training that were called the double Ds, which stood for dumb as dog shit. DeVito struggled to reach the recruits in the beginning and later was able to find a connection when he started teaching them Shakespeare. One day in class, these recruits, most coming from broken backgrounds, weren't understanding the correlation between the words and the rhythms in the play that they were reading. That play was Hamlet. One line, One line that was dropped in there is when DeVito stopped and he made the class start to beat on the table. And the rhythm that he wanted them to say is, "This, above all, to thine own self be true." You see, in the play, Polonius is speaking with his son. His son is Laertes, and along with other blessings and advice, Laertes was going off to school, and his father wanted him to know a few things that can make him a more happy, whole, and successful human being. You see, in this life, there's always people that will shoot down dreams, the naysayers. In this life, you may only have a goal with no clue of how to navigate the roads to your desired destination. It's funny though, on the road is when you meet the naysayers. It can be friends and family who often do it from a place of concern for your well-being. There can be strangers, especially on social media, that see you working and take time from their own unhappiness to find company for their misery. Oh, the naysayers don't go away when you reach your goals. They may not climb your peaks or soar into your clouds, but success has an amazing content delivery system, but the junk mail filter is trash. See, this is when it's most important to remember Polonius's words. This, above all, to thine own self be true. Easier said than done. Yeah, maybe. But because you can be what you want to be, you can also be your most prolific naysayer. But I've learned to wake up, look in the mirror and say, "Hey up, what up? I know you. We're not done here. Let's go to work." Be good to each other. I'll see you tomorrow.